Let's get joined up. I'm Wayne Kelly, and this episode is sponsored by Picklock Publishing, the imprint behind my debut novel Safe Hands, which tells the story of Mickey Blake, a retired safecracker pulled out of retirement for one last job, and Hazel, a desperate mother driven to kill to protect her son from being sucked into a life of crime. It's out now to buy on Kindle and in paperback, and if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can read the book for free. That's Safe Hands by W.A. Kelly. Right, that's enough advertising. Cue the theme tune. Joined up writing. Hello and welcome to the Joined Up Writing podcast, where a little procrastination can go a long way. I'm Wayne Kelly and it's episode 215 with best-selling psychological suspense author AJ Campbell joining me to chat about her latest book, why and how she's taken both the indie route as well as releasing books with a traditional publisher, and we'll also discover the book that saved her life. Before that, a very quick catch-up from me. I've been hard at work both in my day job working in video production, out on numerous commercial shoots, doing some scripting, and more recently putting together a sales pitch, which has been really good practice and uses a different part of my brain to my fiction writing. Speaking of which, I've also been chipping away every day on the first draft of my next book, the sequel to Safe Hands, tentatively titled The Callback. That's been fun, but taxing with everything else, and I'm enjoying it in that strange masochistic way that writers seem to do. But you know, if you just surrender yourself to the process, accept that there's going to be lots of thinking, and remember that you can't edit a blank page, you can just about keep the words flowing. Aside from all that, I've been promoting my writing workshop, Big Screen, Write Better Books and Stories Using Screenwriting Techniques, which I'm doing at the Attenborough Arts Centre in Leicester on May the 11th, and there are still a few tickets left for that, so if that sounds like something you'd like to know more about, check out the link in the show notes. I've also met with the adult literacy team as part of Leicester Libraries, and I'm hoping to have some more exciting news to announce around that, specific to the podcast actually, in upcoming episodes, so stay tuned for that. So that's me, but what about you? What have you been up to? What have you been reading? Maybe you want to mention your own project, your workshop, or something else. So drop me a line and let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll always reply. And you can do that by emailing Wayne at waynekellywrites.com or dropping me a line on the Facebook or Twitter pages. And why not sign up to my free monthly newsletter over at waynekellywrites.com as well? You get a free ebook with 2 original crime stories, and once a month I get in touch to give you exclusive behind-the-scenes access to my writing world. There's also book recommendations and all sorts of other fun stuff, so take a look and sign up. Right, let's crack on. It's time for today's interview with AJ Campbell. So AJ is an Amazon best-selling author of 6 psychological suspense novels and promises stories full of twists, turns and torment. Her 4th book, The Phone Call, was released in July 2022 and it topped the Amazon charts for several months. It was also shortlisted for the Adult Prize for Fiction at the Selfie Book Awards 2023. And her latest book, released by Bookature, is called My Perfect Marriage, not How Can I Trust You, which is what we call it on the actual podcast conversation. The title has been changed very last minute, so it's now My Perfect Marriage, but that's out everywhere you can find books right now. So enjoy the chat, and I'll pop back at the end just to wrap things up. Joined up writing. Okay, Amanda, thanks so much for joining me on Joined Up Writing. I really appreciate it. So just to start us off, why don't you just give us a sense of actually where you're speaking from and tell me how things are going for you at the minute?
Yeah, good. Okay, I live in Stansted, as in Essex, as in Stansted Airport. So I'm about 10 minutes from the airport. And yeah, things are going well at the moment. I've got 2 books due out. One in 3 weeks' time, April the 8th, called How Can I Trust You? And the next one is due out May the 29th, which is I can't tell you what it's called because the publisher still hasn't
It's
confirmed the
still that's
title.
okay. That's okay. Well, why don't you tell us about that, the one that's coming out April the 8th? Because when this comes out, that will have just come out, that book. So how can I trust you? Tell us a little bit about that. What's the premise?
Okay, so it follows the story of Ashley and Danny, who have just moved, well, a few months ago moved, that year moved house from London to Time End, which is kind of like based on a few villages around where I live. And Danny, it's where Danny grew up, and he's wanted to move back for many, many years. Ashley's born bred in London and was reluctant, but they've got a child now, and she saw the benefits of a country life of bringing up their son Elliot. So they move back. Danny is really happy with how it's gone, and he's happy in his new life there. She's not so Ashley's not so happy. They go to the birthday party of Elliot, their son Elliot, his best friend Grace. It's her 9th birthday party. Grace's mum Lucy is Danny's best friend from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And at that party, Lucy is found murdered in the garage with Danny holding the murder weapon.
Oh dear.
So from there, yeah, you can kind of like gather where
all kicks off. Yeah.
it all kicks off from there.
It all kicks off. Right. So that's obviously it's a great nail biting premise. So do you remember kind of what kicked that idea off for you in the first place? Was there an initial spark, or did you just wake up with it one day? Where did it come from?
Do you know, I really can't remember. I so I've lived in a number of villages in the surrounding areas over the last 20 years, and without giving too much away because I away the plot.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen how villagers can get very emotional about certain aspects about their village,
Yeah.
and I kind of questioned, I wonder where that could lead.
Being a
If
writer, you took it
the
to the end.
wrong person,
Yeah, you took it
the
right
wrong
to the
person
nth
got hold of
degree.
the wrong. Absolutely, absolutely. So from there, there's lots of twists and turns. Danny gets arrested. Ashley starts to delve into their lives, his life, and finds one thing after another, which makes her question if she can trust him.
Secrets are revealed. So obviously this is such a popular genre at the minute. Well, it has been for a long while, psychological thriller. But I've noticed now it's also kind of seeping into other things like Netflix documentaries, even kind of are taking this format now. I watched one recently, and I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it had a similar setup. In it kind of gives you a setup. You think, oh, okay, it's going this way, and then they reveal something. There's a reveal, there's a secret that you didn't know, and everything you thought you knew about this thing has then turned on its head. And so it seems to be, so polar. Why do you think that is, and why do you like writing in that genre yourself, do you think?
I mean, I love reading in that genre. I like the paciness of the books, the stories, how they twist and turn. I like trying to guess who did it or how it happened. So I guess it's like what I love reading about is what I love writing about too.
And so in terms of your writing, have you always written in that genre? Is it always what you've been drawn to, or did you ever try to write in any other genres?
No, so my debut novel is well, I self-published it. It was really successful. I'm really proud of it, but it wasn't pure psychological thrillers. There was a family drama behind it as well. And from there, it's kind of like it's where I've gravitated towards.
And
Yeah, just
yeah. And do you find that when you're writing these things, you say you're twisting and you're turning and everything else, Do you like, on the back of that? I know it's a question that everybody asks all the time, but on the back of that, do you find you have to know exactly where you're going before you start writing, or are you a writer that kind of finds your way as you go?
Um, I I have an outline in my mind. I know the premise where I'm starting from, and generally I know where I'm ending up, but not always who did it and who's guilty, and it can change. It can change. I might start out one way, and as I get towards the end, thinking, no, it would be much better if it was that person. And then I kind of like change directions.
And do you ever get stressed out when you're writing? I mean, obviously we'll talk about it more as we go along, and about in terms of how many books you've written and how many times you've done this so far. But do you ever get worried at any point during the process? Or maybe this time I'm not going to be able to sort it out. Maybe this time I'm tying myself up.
Time. Every time. So I've just started writing. Well, I've got 3 books on the go at the moment. I'm about 15,000 words into all 3 of them. And I've chosen one that I'm taking forward. And even today, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, is this good enough? Can I do this? And then I have to really give myself a talking to. You've done this 8 times before. You can do it again. But, the imposter syndrome, it still creeps in.
Absolutely. So is that kind of how you tend to work? Do you just kind of start off a few horses, if you like? So you mentioned there you've got 3 on the go at the minute. Are some of those been around for a while, or is it just a case of, oh, you like this idea, you like this idea, you like this idea, and you just see which one takes off?
So after I finished the 8th one for the publisher, I just thought, oh, okay, where do I go next? And I've got about 7 or 8 ideas that I want to take forward. So I've picked 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started writing.
And then you just see, do you? Is it a case of which one takes over, which one it takes over in your mind, or how do you? Because some people, they struggle with keeping one book in their head at a time. But you've obviously got potentially. You've got.
I couldn't continue. I couldn't. Yeah. I cannot continue with all 3 now. I have to just choose one. So I'm focusing on one that I feel most excited about.
And that's how you do it. And obviously, you've still got the other 2 that you'll probably go back to as well at some stage. Do you think?
The other 2.
Yeah. So you've got 3 ideas. Got three.
Oh,
three
yes,
books.
yes.
Yeah. So you probably go to the.
Oh,
other
yeah,
back
definitely,
to the
definitely.
2.
So when I finish this, I'll go one by one through them.
You'll hop on to another one, right? Well, so let's take it back a little bit then. So tell me a little bit about how you actually came to writing. What's your earliest memory of writing?
So I started in 2012. I was mum of 3. I am a mum of 3, and my twins were about, so how old are they? 12. They were 6 at the time, and they'd gone off to school, but one of them has got severe disabilities. So I was his full-time carer as well. So I'd read an article about something that happened to a couple, and I thought to myself, oh, how could that possibly have happened? And then I just made up a story about how they got there. And I worked on this story for about 5 years while raising the children, moving house, and everything that comes with being a mum. And I was also working part-time for my husband's business. But I really believed in this story. And then what happened? I joined the Faber Academy to the course, the first 15,000 words. And I came out of that with 15,000 words. And then I spent another couple of years writing the rest of the story, or developing it, really. I'd kind of like written the story. I had a very, very, very rough first draft. And then in 2019, I took it to the Winchester Writers' Festival, where beforehand we'd got to submit the first 3 chapters to 4 literary agents. And we got a 10-minute one-to-one session with each of these agents over the course of the weekend. And the third one I sat down in front of, she said, I loved it, absolutely loved it. And she was from a very reputable agency. And I thought, wow, this is it. This is
Yeah,
it.
you're in. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was so excited. To me, I'm moving agents and agencies, and I'd like to take you with me. And this was May time, and she said, but I won't be there till September. So look out for me on Twitter, and approach me. Send me your full manuscript once I'm with this new agency. So there was I, like cloud nine. I spent the next 3 months polishing the manuscript, making it the best it could be. And then come September, I was looking out for her, following her. And yeah, she announced where she was going. And she said, I'm open for submissions. So I sent her an email. Here you go. Here's the full manuscript. And I got a thank you, but no thank you.
Weird.
It was like,
that's weird,
it was just like a standard email.
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks sort of thing.
Yeah. So I went back to her and said, do you remember me from Winchester? And I heard nothing. And she had put on her Twitter page, closed for submissions. I've had 2,000, not taken anymore.
Oh my God.
So of course you can imagine how
that must have
disheartened
been a real
I was.
Kick in the teeth, yeah.
So that was September 2019, and I hate this book now. I put it aside and I started writing the next one. And as well, I started looking into self-publishing and what that would involve. And I thought to myself, well, let's just give it a go, because even if I did find an agent now, it would, my first books, it's not going to be published for a couple of years. I thought, well, I can have both of these out next year. So I decided to go for it. I thought, right, May 2020, I'm going to self-publish this debut novel, Leave Well Alone. January came round. I constructed a really detailed marketing plan. I did everything that you need to do to self-publish a book. I followed the self-publishing formula, Mark Dawson's formula, and then COVID hit. I thought, kids came home from school, but there's no way I can do this. So I postponed it to August. And during this time as well, I'd found a really good editor, a cover designer, and I'd finished the second book, a rough draft of the second book. So come August, I self-published this Leave Well Alone, and it just took off. It just by the end of the year, it hits one of the categories on Amazon in the USA, which obviously it kind of went from there. It got recommended in Good Housekeeping UK as a reader's recommended read. So I guess the editor must have read the book as well and decided, that it was worthy to feature in Good Housekeeping UK. And then I thought, oh this is good. Let's get the second one going, and it's just really gone from there. So I self-published 6 books between August 2020 and May 2023, and then it was early May last year I got approached by Bookouture, and I ended up signing a 2-book deal with them. And I was just, I was just amazed that they signed a deal with 2 books I hadn't even written.
So how did that feel coming off the back of? Because obviously you'd been, and you still are really successful as a self-published writer. That indie thing. So how did you feel when Bookouture? So Bookouture approached you, did the apropos? You didn't submit or anything like that. They just approached you. They're obviously seeing how you were doing and all the rest of it. So did you have any reservations with that? Because obviously you'd been doing it all on your own up until then, and you've been going. How did you feel about it? Were you at all conflicted about it or not?
Yes, but there's no underestimating the reach that a publisher can get for you, and that's that. It's hard. It's hard work self-publishing. Really, really hard. I've really put the hours in over the last 4 years now. Um, and I thought, well, let's give it a go. What have I got to lose? So I sent them synopsis of three books that I'd had. They picked two, and they said, "Oh, yeah, let's go for it." And
That's
so from June last year to December. No. It's actually I've just completed the copy edit of the second one.
which comes
So
out in
I've been
May.
working on those, which comes out in May. Yeah.
And obviously, again, for people that, because there'll be people that obviously people in publishing will have heard of Bookshare because they're really big, kind of one of the newer publishing houses. But just for people that don't know, just tell people who Bookshare are and kind of how they work and how they're different, because they are very different to kind of the old version of publishing, aren't they? Just even the timescales that you're talking
Yeah.
about there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're a digital publisher, so focusing mainly on the digital market. And they're very successful. They've had great successes with a number of authors. And I think they've been around about 12 years. So they're quite new. So yeah.
They seem to have really kind of gone up. Their profile seems to have really gone up in the last couple of years in particular. Like, I'm surprised to hear when you say that I'm surprised they've been around that long. It sort of feels almost like they've just sort of, the last couple of years particularly, it seems to be more and more people talking about it. And there seems to be a lot of authors that are doing similar, not necessarily indie publishing and then going with them, but I know other publishers that have kind of got a traditional publishing deal, if you like, with a bigger publisher, the usual sort of 18-month turnaround between submitting the manuscript and getting it out and all the rest of it. But to speed things up because they write fast like you, or they've got lots of other ideas or books in the drawer or whatever, they're kind of also signing alongside it. They're signing these deals with like Bookshare and Boldwood and people like that. So it seems to be sort of changing. Do you think, is that your experience? Do you think how do you think publishing is changing, and how do you think it will continue to change going forward?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm honest, I knew very little about publishing when I published debut novel. I literally what I'd crammed from the internet of this course in few months. Well, it had been about 6 months, I guess, between taking the course and actually self-publishing. So it's really hard for me to say to answer that question.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I guess
Well,
I
you're
mean,
obviously a
obviously,
quick learner.
yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
Because I mean, I'm putting my first toe into. I recently self-published myself my first book, indie published my first book. So as somebody that is like really trying to find his feet and like learning something, and there'll be other people that are maybe thinking about this. What would be some of your tips? What are the things that you kind of learned in those initial sort of 3, 6
Oh
months or year or
goodness.
whatever? What, you
I've
know,
learned
what?
so much and I'm still learning. I'm still
Yeah.
learning. Um, you've got to have a professional cover. You've got to have a professional product as well. It's got to be edited and proofread and yeah, so they're the obvious things. Oh goodness, where do I even start?
How did you go about with your marketing and stuff? So obviously you've got, you did all that, as you say, we'll take that as a given, like that it's going to have a professional cover and it's going to be copy edited and all the rest of it, and it's going to be a professional product. So that aside, so you've got the book out. When you get the book out, or when you're getting the book out into the world, how did you get the word out there? Because that's the difficulty, I think, for a lot of indie published authors.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I do run Amazon and Facebook ads. So a lot of my time was spent learning how to honestly, they're like a dark arc.
I know they
They
are.
still confuse me. They still confuse me. And I still, it just still amazes me that when I stop running my Amazon ads, my even though I don't feel I'm making out any money out of them, when I stop running them, my income they're doing something. So there's those two avenues. I also a Facebook group, but it's actually Novels and Natter and my AJ's Thread Camp. So I have I kind of obviously advertising through those. I've got my Facebook page, and over the 3 years, I've grown my audience. And then I do things like this: join podcasts, Facebook groups, author takeovers in Facebook groups. I do have a mailing list. I send a monthly email out. I have a freebie book, short novella that I wrote when I was self-publishing the first book. That's advertised on my website for free. I've built an ARC team up, reader team. When I release a book, they help with review, and also they tremendously with weeding out the pesky typos.
Yeah.
Which are there even after a proofread.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I also have a beta team, so 8 readers. One of them's a policeman, which
that's brilliant, yeah.
No end. So they read the book when I've got kind of just probably post structural edit.
So doing all that stuff, when do you find the time to write? And you do write a lot, obviously, because you're quite prolific. You've got a lot of books that you've written in a relatively short space of time, really.
Yeah, so I'm a morning person, so I get up and I write in the morning. So I typically start about 8 o'clock until 1 o'clock, 5 hours of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll break for lunch, walk the dog, and then I get onto all this marketing.
Yeah, your creative stuff in the morning, yeah, and then pick up all your admin and everything else.
Yeah, I'm editing in the afternoon, but trying to be creative in the afternoons, it just doesn't happen. I flake.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's exhausting, isn't it? I'm the same. I'm a morning person. I do my writing in the morning if I can. It's harder to do it later on, for definite. It's a different part of your brain.
Absolutely. And where I really struggle is, the 13 weeks holiday, the kids are at home.
Yeah, you have to just crack on. Would you say that your process has changed at all over the last few years since you first started? Because from obviously, like a lot of writers, before they press publish, if you like, or they get that first book published, that first book often takes a lot longer than the ones subsequently. And it sounds a bit like that for you. What changed for you, do you think? Was it this idea that, well, you knew you'd kind of got a schedule and you were just going to put them out? Was that what changed for you, or?
I guess it's experience, knowing what works. Yeah, because the first one, if I kind of like take all those slots of time that it took me to write between starting it and self-publishing it, it's probably 5 years.
Yeah.
But now I can probably between 4 to 5 months.
Between 4 to 5 months, yeah.
Rather than years.
Yeah. And has your process changed at all when you write now, or is it just a case of? I mean, it sounds like you like to have a lot of things going on. Are you happy hopping between books for a start when you're writing these things?
No. I'm definitely better focusing on one book, but I just wanted to get the ideas to see if they were working and which one. I think it's probably best I'll just stick to one at a time.
And you write standalones, don't you, at the moment? Is that right?
Yeah, although my second one was part of a series with the first one. They are both standalones as well. But yeah, definitely standalones.
Which again is good, because a lot of if you kind of look, a lot of the stuff that you read now, particularly for indie publishing, is, oh, if you're going to be successful, you really need to write a series. That's kind of what the kind of received wisdom is. I know, obviously, and you and there are a lot of other people that prove that wrong, but that's kind of what a lot of people say now. But do you think it's more of a case that you've kind of, although you don't write series, you've kind of built this brand for yourself? This is the kind of books that AJ Campbell writes.
Yeah, this series works, which is why I made my second book it's the same character, but kind of 8-10 years on.
Mm-hmm.
And I really regret that. I really wish I'd made it a standalone.
Right.
But it, it is. I am where
Why
I
why
am.
why do you regret that?
I think it would have been much better as a standalone because they were kind of crossing genres.
Right.
So I think they would have been a bit, yeah. So the first one was a family drama more than psychological thriller, and the second one was kind of police procedural in it as well.
I think there's a lot of. I do think there is more and more overlap with those two genres now, though, as well. You do see a lot of family dramas do kind of verge into psychological thriller territory, don't they? Now it seems to be quite. I don't know whether it's got a new name yet, but there does seem to be a lot of books that do that. Probably
A
will
kind of
have.
domestic thrillers.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Domestic
yeah,
thrillers.
yeah. I guess so. So one of the things that I do on the show is
It's the book.
It's the book
That saved my life.
Saved my life.
Yeah, it's the book.
It's the book
That saved my life.
Now, obviously, that's not literally, doesn't have to have saved your life. But if I said that phrase to you, what is there a book or books, and it can be fiction, non-fiction, whatever, that has meant a lot to you in your life? It might be from when you were younger. It might be something you read recently. But what if I say that to you, book that saved your life, what does that mean to you? What is there anything that kind of immediately leaps to mind?
So when I was a child, I absolutely adored the Enid Blyton, Mallory Towers, and St Clair's series about boarding school. I so wanted to go to boarding school after reading those, and I begged my mum and dad to send me to boarding school. And I actually ended up reading those series 8 times, and that's what from there my love of reading developed. So I kind of like look back and think, I wish I'd gone to boarding school.
You say that unless you actually, I didn't go, but I don't know. You might not have enjoyed the real life version as much as the books, maybe. And do you think that's kind of what started the love of writing as well? When do where do you think
Well,
that came from?
I'll be honest with you. I'd, I've always thought how wonderful it would be to write a book, but I never thought I was good enough until, I read this newspaper article that I mentioned earlier about this couple and this story, and thinking, how could that possibly have happened? And it kind of like started out as a hobby, and kind of it's become a career. So
yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? So
really, really exciting.
yeah, it's brilliant. So if you were starting again tomorrow, is there anything that you'd do differently?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I would have made my second one standalone.
Yeah.
Goodness, I can't know.
You're obviously happy with how things are going. Well, that's good. What is it that motivates you when you sit down? Is there something that kind of gets you through when you get to one of these difficult plot moments, or you maybe some days you don't feel like getting in the chair or whatever? What is it that gets you in the chair? What is it gets you through these difficult moments that you get?
I just tell myself I've done this before, I can do it again. There's a twist. There's another twist around the corner. I can make another twist out of this.
Yeah. So when you get one of these difficult story problems, this knotty problem, and you need another twist or whatever, do you bounce ideas off other people, or how do you go about that?
Yes. So my husband is great for that. So I'll pull him in and say, how could this happen? Or I need a way for this person to get out of this situation. And he comes up with some things that make me think. And he's my first beta reader. So he'll read it before a structural edit, and he'll say, he'll just tell me where it's not working, but the pace isn't great, or he'll say that possibly couldn't happen. It wouldn't work like that, or that's out of character.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
yeah, he's a great beta reader.
That's brilliant. So as we kind of move towards wrapping things up, if there is somebody out there that's maybe you, like you were sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago or whatever, and you were in this position, you were thinking, I want to write a book, but I don't know whether I can do it. Imagine you're speaking directly to them now. What would you say to convince them to give it a go?
Absolutely. You know what? A bit cliche, isn't it? I kind of think if I can do it, you can do it. I just say you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in your story and your product, that you can do this. It's not out of reach. I think as writers, we all suffer from imposter syndrome. I just have to keep telling myself, talking to myself, just saying, yeah, you can do it.
That's really good advice. So just before we go, just tell us, Amanda, just remind people about the book that's coming out. So it's How Can I Trust You? And just tell us when it's coming out and also where they can find out more about you online.
Absolutely. So How Can I Trust You is published on April the 8th, 24. It'll be available on Amazon, audiobook, and in Kindle Unlimited. And you can reach me on my website, www.ajcampbellauthor.com, and Instagram and Facebook, AJ Campbell Author.
That's brilliant. Well, I'll put all of that information in the show notes. But for now, Amanda, thanks so much for coming on Joined Up Writing. It's been great to chat to you.
Yeah, it's been really good to chat to you too. Thank you for having me.
Joined up writing.
There you go. Thanks again to AJ, and I'll put all of the links in the show notes over at joinedupwriting.co.uk. That's it for this week, other than me reminding you to make sure you subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever else you get your podcasts from, and then you can have the podcast downloaded automatically every single time. Also, remember to leave us a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you're getting the show from, because it does really help other people to find the show. And, just keep telling people about it. That would be marvellous. So thanks again for listening this week. I'm Wayne Kelly. Happy writing, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.